Welcome everyone, I'm Guyswood here. So today I'm doing part 2 of Deku 3R. Now I'm not going to go over anything as well. You should have already watched part 1, and if you haven't, go watch it. But yeah, so now let's start. Let's get straight into it. Now we start as Deku would arrive on his first day at UA. Waking up to classroom 1A, he taking a deep breath and looked down at his gloves and smile. This is it, Mum. Opening the large door, be met by the screaming of Bakugo and Ida yelling at each other. As Deku was there in disgust, Ida would approach and apologize for his actions and assumptions. As Deku would get nervous and try to apologize, as well as however he'd jump at the feeling of a hand suddenly falling to the shoulder. Hey, I remember that green hair, Uraka said. Ah, a cute girl, Deku screamed, startling Uraka, who turned bright red from Deku's sudden exclamation. Here to flirt, and I'm happy to kick you out myself, said the yellow caterpillar, sucking on her food paste. Oh, can I have some? Deku asked. Knock yourself out. Zazawa would stand up and unzip himself from the caterpillar, food pouches falling out, Deku collecting them and stuffing them into his pockets. As Zazawa would tell everyone to sit down, he'd instruct them to meet him outside. As in the changing room, the boys would stare at Deku's ripped bodies and scars from garbage dumping, along with the bandages under his gloves that he never takes off, which he'd mistake as being caused by either his quirk, training, or by a possibly abusive family member. Arriving at the set location, Aizawa would hand Bakugo a ball as he was the first in robotic points, and instruct him to throw it with his quirk, Bakugo screaming as he'd throw the ball. Eventually, the crowd of students would begin to discuss using their quirks, with Mina eventually saying it'll be fun, leading to Aizawa putting her down and revealing that the students with the lowest score will be expelled. As the test would go underway, Deku would begin to turn his boots into a Jinki, as they transformed into a large green and black claws that would allow basic speed and a jump boost, along with him giving the ability to jump off any surface, which includes the air. As he did succeed in most of the exams very well, until the ball throw would come in, as his boots would crumble away. Ouch, Deku said, jumping up from the somewhat rocky ground, the class looking at him. Midoriya, Aizawa yelled. You're up. Right, I'd run over to the point whilst jumping up and down. What happened to your boots? Oh, anything I turn eventually turns to dust after I use them to their full extent. So you need an object to use your quirk? Yes, sir. Alright then. As Aizawa would walk to a pile of equipment and take out a bat. Here, the tired man groaned, passing Deku a bat. Alright, charge level 2, he said, a big green X2 forming on the bat as it would turn black-green and grow in size. As information of how the weapon works would flow into his mind, as he began to swing the bat repeatedly through the air. So how long can I do this, Teach? I need to do this for the best results. No, you won't have much prep time. However, will be cut off by Deku hitting the ball, sending all the built-up and amplified energy in the bat from swinging it straight into the ball, a shockwave sending everyone to the ground, including Deku. 800 kilometers, Aizawa would say, smiling as Deku would look over at the fuming Bakugo and flip him off. As his nose would bleed, he would pass out from using 2 charges. As Bakugo would charge in and try and attack Deku naturally, Aizawa would just bind him up and throw him onto the ground. Alright, Aizawa said, revealing the scores as he lifted Deku over his shoulder and would be dragging Bakugo across the ground with his wrap. You expelled, great boy, he said, pointing towards the terrified Mineta. So get out quickly before I... No, muttered Deku, pushing himself off Aizawa's shoulders. Huh? You don't have the right to expel him, Deku said, gripping and trying to pull himself up but failing, only able to stare up at the teacher. Oh yes, I do. No, you don't. His quirk is weak, yes, but it doesn't devalue the fact he got into the greatest hero school on the planet with said quirk. Are you? I'm not finished, you old bag of shit. As Deku would try and lift himself up with a murderous look on his face. You have no right to devalue someone else's quirk, whether you think it's trash or not, shithead. As his look would make the other students shiver, as he'd actually look like he's gonna kill them all. And what will you do if I still expel him? You won't be, Deku said, as if it was guaranteed, blood still flowing from his nose. This kid, he's not kidding. He really wants to save him. Fine. I'll comply with you. You better show results, great boy. However, Deku's fist would likely hit Aizawa. His name is Mineta, shithead. As Deku would pass out fully. Waking up, Deku would be in school infirmary once again. He'd make out Mineta sitting next to him, Deku's arm by his side. Oh, you're awake, the great boy said, trying to hide his magazine behind him. Oh hey, Deku muttered. As Mineta would continue speaking, he'd say, I'd just like to... Ah! Suddenly a screaming sharp pain flowed through Midoriya's hands, cutting off Mineta. Turns out recovery girl had to remove Deku's gloves and bandages. Deku screamed further. What's wrong? Mineta worried, accidentally dropping his magazine in the trash, old food staining it. Crap, the perv worried, reaching for the magazine to check on his new member of his collection, then remembered Deku's predicament. As he'd run out of the room calling for a recovery girl, as Deku's screams would fill the hall. As Mineta and recovery girl and some staff would burst into the room. Deku would be on the ground, trash everywhere across the floor. Gritting his teeth and biting his lip till it would be bleeding. Deku would be wiping the food and dirt off the dirty magazine, his darkened flesh flaking off onto the ground. Sorry, I couldn't fully clean. Gloves! My gloves! As Mineta would retrieve Deku's gloves and shove them back onto his hands, as the pain would suddenly dissipate. Thanks, man. As Deku would be taken to the new room. There he'd explain that his hands have been like this since he was born, and he doesn't know why they can't be healed, or why specifically these gloves prevent the pain. So with Recovery Girl requesting that Deku must come in for daily treatment, the school day would be over. As Deku would be leaving, Mineta would call out his name. Oh hey Mineta, Deku smiled. What? Why did you help me? Why did you put yourself through such pain for a random perv's dirty magazine? Because it's precious to you. You put it before my own well-being. So, you're either scum, or that magazine is really precious. I like to choose the latter. Nobody's ever been that nice to me. As Mineta would begin to break down, Deku would face him and say, But seriously, dude, don't bring porn into school. As for the next couple of days, Deku would actually begin to befriend Mineta, as I don't know about you guys, but I don't like writing incredibly perverted characters like Mineta. So, when it comes to these kind of motifs, I take advantage of the fact I'm rewriting the story and taking on the bad parts and turning them into good things, such as Mineta. Hopefully you like him in this series. But yeah, eventually Deku would end up turning Mineta into a sort of trash lover as well, as Mineta would also begin to value his own quirk and have much more confidence thanks to Deku's influence, although he'd still be nervous around any girl. As we pick up with the class excited for the first hero lesson. With Deku sitting next to Mineta, the boys discussing who will be their hero teacher. Mineta naturally wanting Midnight, however Deku would punch his waist. Why hasn't he done anything? Deku wondered, looking over at Bakugo, who would respond with a pissed off side eye. Walking over to the pair, the blonde would grit his teeth and say, So what's up with you dipshits? Sorry? Deku responded. Oh, so an ex-quirkless trash fucker and a perv with a trash quirk. However, he'd be cut by Deku grabbing a pencil, standing up and holding it against the bully's throat. At the same time, Bakugo would place his palm above Deku's head, both ready to harm each other with glares that spoke of their hatred more than any words could. However, they'd be interrupted by a loud running sound from the outside. As All Might would burst through the door yelling his infamous catchphrase, the whole class would be silent, staring at the pair who'd move away from one another and return to their seats. As All Might would awkwardly walk to the front of the class and instruct the class to take their suitcases and get changed into their hero outfits and meet at the Fake City. Now for this series, Deku's hero design is basically think Rudo's cleaner uniform, but more rudimentary. Like it's clear that he made it himself, right? So it's very poorly made, basically. Although a rudimentary hero cape made out of a bedsheet and a sheet of metal would be on his back. As All Might would explain the hero versus villains exam, he'd take out the balls for the villains, the results being Ida and Bakugo, with the heroes being Deku and Mineta. Instantly, the rivals would glare at each other as Bakugo and Ida would enter the building. As during their wait, Mineta would try and talk to Deku and ask him what's wrong, with Deku claiming that Bakugo crossed the line for insulting Mineta. Your quirk isn't trash. Thanks, but you don't need to begin. As the pair would rush in, Deku would tell Mineta the plan, where Deku's role is to distract and beat Bakugo. However, the communication would be cut off by Bakugo screaming and blasting down the hallway, causing a significant amount of smoke to blind them that would be blown away by an explosion from Bakugo, revealing that Mineta had fled. Guess that useless perv ran away. Shut it. As Deku would grab the light sheet of metal off his back, revealing a dent and a burn mark in the center. His eyes and the sheet would glow green, turning into a shield. That's your quirk! Bakugo screamed. How dare you hide it from me? I didn't hide it. I'm just a light blue. Don't bullshit me! Bakugo yelled, blasting forward. Peering in front of Deku, he'd reach out, sending a blast straight into his face. However, he'd instead make contact with the shield, the explosion being absorbed by the shield and a stronger blast being sent from the center, blasting Bakugo back. What the? Anyways, we cut to Mineta, following the plan Deku gave him as he began making beds out of his balls, pushing himself to its limit to help the only one they accepted him. We'd also see that it'd be near the room where Ida would be role-playing as a villain in front of the bomb. Do you remember this metal sheet? Deku said as we'd cut back to their fight. Of course not. Knew it. Around a month after Mum died, I ran from the orphanage and found myself in an alleyway. There, I found this metal sheet of metal. I used it to protect myself from rats and other animals. It was the roof that protected me. Then you showed up. You found me shivering in a box under the sheet. And did you help? No. You just laughed. I started bashing the sheet, ending with a small explosion, leaving this burn, and to this day, that loud banging of metal reminds me of that night. But now, it will shield me again, like I care. As two continue their battle, Deku blocking, absorbing, and redirecting Bakugo's explosions, sending the explosions in a variety of ways, as large explosions, concentrated beams, and waves of energy, and any other kind of fire explosion energy-based abilities. Yeah, basically because this piece of metal was a shield that Deku used to protect himself from Bakugo's explosions, that means that it now has the ability to absorb and redirect those attacks in whatever way Deku wishes. Anyways, as Bakugo would continue his barrages of insults and anger at Deku for hiding his quirk, eventually Bakugo would jump back and scream, "If you're only gonna block, then I'll break that metal," as he grabbed the pin of his gauntlet and put it back, sending a massive blast towards Deku. However, that would be absorbed as well. What the? Aren't you listening? This sheet is something that has protected me during the hell you brought to my life. Like hell, some weak explosion would break it. As he shot a massive beam of energy out of his shield, blasting right through the building at an angle, causing the beam to break right into the bomb room, startling Ida. That's the signal, Mineta yelled, throwing a bed of grapes at Ida as the ground would begin to crumble. Back to the explosive teens, we see Bakugo was slightly burnt by the beam. Clearing the smoke and dust, Bakugo would see Deku standing with a bag of Mineta's balls in his hand. Refusing to accept defeat, Bakugo would scream at Deku about, "What can you do with useless ball?" Although green and black sticky balls would already be stuck all over Bakugo's body, preventing him from moving. As a high-pitched sound would come from the balls. What's wrong? Did you think you were the only explosive expert? Deku remarked. Not believing he's gonna blow up, Bakugo would scream, "Damn you!" As a click would be heard, Bakugo would brace for impact. However, nothing would come, except for Deku's glove flying right into his face, sending Bakugo through multiple walls, knocking him out. As the building would continue to collapse, Mineta would arrive through the hole, blood pouring out of his head from overuse of his quirk, him throwing a ball bed onto Bakugo's body, Deku joining him. As the building would collapse, waking up, Deku would find himself and the still unconscious Bakugo and Ida still on the sticky beds, unable to get off because of just how sticky Minetta's grapes are, as he'd be surrounded by their classmates in the city streets. What happened? All Might saved you, Araki said. Guess I was too Where's Minetta? He's over there. As laying on top of the rubble of the building would be the bomb, Minetta who'd be unable to make himself a bed, laying on top of the bomb. Heroes win, All Might said, standing over Minetta. Good job, son. As Minetta would give a thumbs up. Now, it's where we're ending this part, so it's much shorter. Have a good day, and goodbye.